Yeah, the warp trains were designed to do what they did, and the cleanup crews. Some of them sounded entertained by this. Well, one of them was from Backstreet 23, so I could hardly say I was surprised by that. Chesed had the warm-hearted Woodsman to deal with, and oh, what a surprise, some twisted take on the Tin Man from the Wizard of Oz. Yeah, I have heard of that story. Yeah, first the Scarecrow, then the Tin Man. There's probably a lion somewhere in here. Just hasn't appeared yet. Yeah. Chesed is probably gonna need to take care of, well, an entire fiend instead of these abnormalities. And yeah, a warm-hearted woodsman, as in one that chops trees. True. Yeah. One of those trees was cut down and the woodsman claimed the hearts. Somehow. Yeah, don't ask me how. But that's how this works. Then again, Chesed and his librarians focus exclusively on the Woodsman. Largely because he was the largest threat. And not just in size. I mean, that blood-stained axe, it's not just for show. And it was time for the harvest to begin. Yeah, Eugene could take care of that. And why am I thinking about a song about lumberjacks? Yeah. Sounds crazy, don't it? And that's talking about this place. Within this city. From what I heard, this version of the Wizard of Oz, the one that the warm-hearted woodsman was from, and the scarecrow seeking wisdom. It's a lot more gory than... Oh yeah, and Camber had a rake. Yeah, it would come in handy for dealing with the Woodsman, who did not stagger easily. Oh yeah. And Chesed wanted to try and get a powerful page. Not always guaranteed, considering it depended on losing a clash rather than winning. Still, these social sciences team had the right idea for how to deal with this. Well, mostly. They were still hit from time to time. Yeah, the pages from the index certainly proved useful, as it meant more to work with. And with Chesed's leadership, even though he seemed hands-off, the Woodsman was almost done. And believe me, they'd have to be incredibly negligent to fail at this point in the battle. And Chesed may have been staggered, but his assistants, well, it'd be enough to finish the job. Yeah, all it took was one more hit. The warm-hearted woodsman's power was added to the social sciences team.
어김없이 이곳은 커피 냄새가 가득하네.
어서 와. 오늘은 인디고 마운틴인데 한 잔 마실래?
좋지?
커피의 맛은 늘 똑같은 게 아니야. 여러 가지 요소들로 맛이 각기 다르지. 어디에서 어떻게 재배했냐부터 얼마나 볶아내는가, 추출을 끊는 정도와 원두를 어느 정도로 분쇄했는가도 중요해. 입자의 크기에 따라 산미와 단맛이 결정되니까.
꽤 섬세한 음료였구만. 난 그냥 주는 대로 마셨는데 말이지.
도시의 사람들과 닮은 것 같지 않아? 뒷골목 출신인지 둥지 출신인지, 또 뒷골목이라면 어느 구역 출신인지에 따라 자라난 사람과 가치관이 판이하게 달라지니까. 그리고 그 성장 과정이 얼마나 험했는가도 포함해서 말이야. 음악의 골목에서는 음악을 못하는 자는 패배자로, 맛의 골목에서는 언제 자신이 식재료가 될지도 모르는 거야. 그게 재배지의 방침이니까.
듣고 보니 그렇네. 잠깐. 사람마다 다른 맛을 낸다? 상당히 23구스러운 발상인데, 혹시 너 몰래 손님들을 커피로 우려낸 건 아니지?
낭만이 없네. 농담이라고 생각할게.
나도 반 농담이었지만 말이야. 뭐 무슨 일이든 일어날 수 있으니까.
서로 다른 곳에서 만들어진 커피를 하나로 섞어주는 걸 블렌딩이라고 해. 블렌딩을 통해 아무리 질라진 커피라도 향미를 낼 수 있지. 사회학은 블렌딩과 닮았어.
온갖 사람이 잘 섞여 살게 하는 방법이니까 그럴싸한데?
그렇지? 그리고 어떤 블렌딩 방법이냐에 따라 걸러지는 재료들이 있기 마련이야. 하지만 커피콩과는 다르게 사람들은 욕망이 있어서 원하는 블렌딩 머신으로 스스로 가고자 해. 이왕이면 고급스러운 세상으로 가고 싶은 거지.
갈려나가는 것은 똑같은데 말이지.
그래서 좋은 커피콩들을 얻기 위해 도시와 둥지는 끊임없이 속삭여. 가장 거대하고 개성 있는 맛을 섬세하게 채워줄 보충제가 필요하니까. 인생의 가치는 이곳에 있다. 보란듯이 잘 사는 모습을 과시하고 걸러진 패배자의 모습을 보여주지. 그렇게 모두 홀려서 자신을 파는 거야.
거짓이라 해도 뒷골목의 삶보다 둥지의 삶이 나은 건 사실이야.
그럴까? 날개들은 말 그대로 사람들을 커피콩처럼 갈아놓고 있는데? 저마다의 날개는 자신의 둥지가 가장 아늑한 곳이라며 깃털들을 모집해. 둥지 안에서의 정책은 날개마다 상이하게 다르고 뒷골목은 그 정책에 맞게 뒤틀려가. 모두가 거대하고 달콤한 거짓말에 젖어 있어. 지금 자신의 행동이 최선이라고 애써 믿고 있는 거야.
최선이라고 믿는다니? 그게 최선인 거야. 뒷골목 삶에서 벗어나 날개에 입사해 안정적인 둥지의 삶을 보내는 것, 이 이상의 방법이 없어.
그렇다면 블렌딩 방법은 누가 정하는 걸까? 아니, 블렌딩이 필요한 걸까? 골라내는 것이 필요한 걸까? 각자 자신이 내는 향대로 살면 안 되는 걸까?
속 편한 소리 하네. 그런 의문을 품으면 한도 끝도 없어.
그런 걸까?
그런 거야. 커피는 잘 마셨어? 올게.
Chesed would certainly appreciate the help, and he'd be able to have some action in the reception. Next, it's the funeral of the dead butterflies. Yeah, you heard me right. Butterflies. That's what Yesod's team were up against. A bunch of butterflies with a guy with a butterfly for a head carrying a coffin. And that's not the twist of this. You're probably asking what the twist of this is. Well, I'll get to that. But to begin with, the librarians were dealing with the individual targets and attacking them as best as they could. Which wasn't that effective against the butterfly head. And there was an additional problem. That being hit by their attacks could make it harder to attack them. That, and it seemed that those that found it harder to attack would find it easier to be staggered. Yeah, that would be a problem. Yeah, it was clear that the butterflies had to go. Because it'd mean more needed to be fought off. Well, Yesod was able to deal with the butterfly head more easily this time. And at this point, Basil had some metallic ringing in his head. Well, thankfully, there was some blunt force trauma to deal with. And this time, it's Butterfly Head that had problems attacking. Wait, didn't I read up about that? Some kind of fictional constructs of some kind? I'm surprised they got away with it if they did. Yeah, that's one less butterfly. Which made Raven feel charged up, despite the circumstances. But at least there was less to deal with. Which meant more to go around. Especially with another group of butterflies would no longer be a problem. Well, the less of them there are, the more we'd be able to attack them. And the less of them will be able to fight back. And being being unable to fight back, well, that'd be painful for anyone. Yeah. The technological sciences team were ganging up on Butterfly Head. Well, I couldn't really think of any other way to describe this. Other than the funeral of the dead butterflies. Yeah. These... Well, it was painfully slow. At least by this point. Although Basil, he didn't have a lot to work with. Well, not a lot to work with that he could use. Yeah. And by this point, this abnormality was broken. Which meant all the technological sciences team needed to do was finish the job. Yeah. It made sense to not hold back any longer. Especially by this point. Well, the funeral of the dead butterflies would benefit the technological sciences team. And another librarian would be added to it. Much to the relief of Yesod. It was Hode's turn to take care of an abnormality. This one's called Laetitia. And it was a killer doll. Yeah. She already had a few victims. And you're probably asking how this worked. Well, this worked by delivering gifts, and oh yeah, I decided to see what the warp cleanup crew pages did. Well, it was at least worth testing out. Yeah, quite a few details to manage. And at least one had quite a potent method of attacking, but even though Noel would probably have wanted it more, it'd probably drive him crazy if he had that equipped, so... Oh, and besides, emotional level 3 was acquired. So he couldn't use it sooner, even if he wanted to. Yeah, there was no way to effectively deal with everything. Especially as there were times when the literature team was then able to defend against what was coming towards them. Oh yeah, and you're probably asking what these gifts were when they get hit. Well, they're bombs. Bombs that needed to be disposed of. As for why that's necessary to deal with, well, those that don't, well, that'll happen later on, so I'll talk about that when we get to that point. You're probably wondering what would happen if the victims were put out of their misery. Well, I'll be getting to that as well. Although one thing was certain. The gift needed to be disposed of, as it was essentially a bomb, just not the fiery explosive kind. Yeah, hard to tell what would be best to minimize the amount of gifts delivered, but it was certainly possible. As for what happens when her victims die, well, after Spike learned about social distancing, multi-eyed insects, or crabs, or whatever you want to call them, burst out. Yeah. They get to fight them again. How great is that? Well, not great for those standing against them, obviously. Mostly because it'd mean an increased risk of getting gifts, and the more gifts you get, the harder it is to, well, get rid of them. Yeah. And after that, barrage. Next time. Along with Elise's cocoon. The spiders would be staggered. It wasn't looking good, I'll say that. Especially with that many. Yes, Spike was none the best of positions. But at least two of the spiders were, well, two of whatever they were killed, and Nyx was about to make a meal out of this. And there was enough of a charge to utterly devastate what was coming after her. And believe me, it was gonna be painful. Especially with the blazing strike. And it was a good idea to get rid of any gifts, if possible. And thankfully, Laetitia was staggered. So there'd only be one that needed to be worried about. Unfortunately, that one could deliver more gifts. But as long as it's dealt with quickly, we'd all be fine. Yeah. Spike just got killed, and there's another of whatever those are. Unfortunate, but he had come back once the library closed for the day. Death's not that big a setback here. And it couldn't hurt to stay alert. It was pretty much over anyway. Yeah. Not something to worry about. If that friend of Laetitia's doesn't die first, she not as easy as the previous battle, but her power was added to the literature team. And it had some useful, well, at least one useful abnormality card, or page, or whatever you want to call it. The hands can be varied. And she has someone else to help her. Hold, I mean. I can say this much about the abnormalities. Some are harder to deal with than others. But with the right equipment, they can be overcome. And sometimes even with the right approach.